I want to welcome you all here tonight, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, Matt Trokan. So Matt is the new executive director at Cincinnati's Western Wildlife Corridor. This wildlife corridor was founded in 1992 as a nonprofit nature conservancy land trust. And that mission of the Western Wildlife Corridor is to protect and restore the natural habitat along the Ohio River Valley. It seems like we have a theme here, the Ohio River Valley and its watershed. And this goes from the Mill Creek to the Great Miami River. Thank you. So as Matt will tell you, one of the greatest threats to wildlife populations is habitat fragmentation. And this, because of the increasing human populations, the natural habitat is being fragmented all along the way, and it's urban development is quickly destroying this essential wildlife habitat. So Matt, he's the perfect person for this job. He grew up in Delhi along a tributary of Wulff Run Creek, and he spent many hours of his youth hiking and exploring the natural areas in Ohio. Received his BA from Xavier University and his master at the Master's of Environmental Study at the Evergreen State College. So his graduate research now is a study of the relationship between climate, plants, and people. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here. Yeah, how many people have heard of Western Wildlife Corridor before? Oh, great, a lot of people. How many people are members of Western Wildlife Corridor? How many people are founding members of Western Wildlife Corridor? Okay, we have one founding member here. So I might lean on you all to help me with the presentation tonight. As Jean said, I'm new to Western Wildlife Corridor. I'm the first full-time staff too. So we're an all volunteer run organization pretty much until recently. And yeah, and I'm also the first executive director. So a lot of new things. Let's see a little bit more about me. Yeah, as Jean said, I went to Xavier University, and then I got my master's at Evergreen State College, and I looked at plants and really the idea of like native plants. And I this focus, came to the conclusion, or read a lot of stuff that to the belief that we needed to help facilitate the range movement of plants. Because of climate change, because the climate is changing so quickly, the plants can't adapt fast enough, and they're not going to be able to move quickly enough. And one example of that would be like the American beech tree. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that tree, but during the last climate change, it barely survived. They can trace it back to just like a couple pockets where the beech was able to hang on until the ice age was over and the climate started to warm again. So, and that's what we're looking at, not just in terms of different species, but also the genetic diversity within those species. So, and different traits, and which all will help our ecosystem and resiliency.
Matt is muted.
A groundbreaking, study that's really been, a lot of other people have used that and applied it to landscape management, community ecology, and basically what they found was on an island there's migration and extinction. New plants and animals would come in, but the islands could only support so many, and so eventually they would die off. And they found that the size of the island determined how many plants and animals could live on it. And so it was a pretty, I guess, simple theory. But from that too, there's these stages of a migration. We see with plants, they get transported to the island, then they establish them. They first form a colony, then they establish and grow larger, and then eventually they take over the whole entire landscape. And all these plants, like within plants, and it's similar to animals, they all have similar characteristics that make them be able to be better migrants, to invade, be better invaders. And a lot of it has to do with how they reproduce, and the fact that they can reproduce frequently, quickly, and then when they land, their seeds land somewhere, they grow. Doesn't matter if it's dry or wet or sunny or shady. So, so that coupled around the same time as in the 60s, really you saw this hyper acceleration of habitat fragmentation and the development of our landscape. It really changed, and it affected the way plants and animals were able to reproduce and their life cycle histories. We think about our preserves as islands in a sea of development. Even if it's fields, like a cornfield, is essentially ecologically, it's like a parking lot, right? I mean, all the soil's dead, it's been sprayed. All it has on there is like one plant. It's designed to be a monoculture. So and what that has done though is, if you think about how migration is impacted, then in the limited preserves that we do have, what the plants and the animals that are able to migrate there are going to be the ones that are the best spreaders, the ones that are the most invasive, the ones that are most aggressive. And our native plants are going to be at a disadvantage. And a lot of this too, as we go through, a lot of the invasive plants are from Asia, and it's because it's the biggest island. The Eurasia is the biggest landmass, and so that has the most competition. And so when those bugs or pests or plants get released here, they're supercharged and ready to compete.
No predators.
And no predators, yeah. So the Narrows Preserve, this was an idea that was also floating around Cincinnati in the late 60s by UC geologist Richard Durrell. The idea was to form a preserve along the Ohio River here that on the hillsides that were fragmented but unable to be developed. And so this was like kind of one of the first ideas to protect the Ohio River Valley. And then it continued to evolve. I might turn it over to Jim. I have you here on this next slide. So, and then in 1992, I know, Jim, you want to tell a story of how Western Wildlife Corridor was formed?
Yeah, it was actually 1989.
Oh, there we go.
But a staff of mine, we were sitting in our office on Enright Avenue, and a deer walked down the street. I just wondered where did it come from? So we got in a car and we drove down River Road. And what we realized, there were like 5 breaks all along it, and the only breaks were roads. So there's a complete corridor, basically Mount Echo Park all the way out. In fact, it even goes further than Mount Echo Park, but all the way out to the Great Miami River. So that's how we got started. We invited the mayors of all the different communities along there and brought them together. And so that's how we got started. So.
Humble beginnings. And and this is Jim Shank. I didn't introduce you properly. So Jim was at the time the director at Imago. Yeah. And so we grew out of that organization. And we were one of several organizations, I think, that Imago helped to incubate. So, yeah. And so the organization continued to grow, and I wanted to play a little video here of another longtime leader, Tim Sisson. And I hope.
I'm Tim Sisson. I'm the Land Stewardship Chair, Land Stewardship Committee Chair for Western Wildlife Corridor. Western Wildlife Corridor has been a real passion of mine for over 20 years now. I grew up in Addiston, where we are right now. I live just down the street here, and these woods that you see behind me were my playground as I was growing up. I was pretty adventurous. Beginning when I was like 6, 7 years old, I would go off into the woods hiking. Got a real appreciation for nature, for wildlife as a child, and I still do, of course. My mother fed the birds, my father loved the outdoors, and that really then influenced me to love the outdoors as well. Beginning, I guess around 7 or 8 years old or so, I got a pony, a medium-sized horse, so we called it a pony, Dynamite. And he was my companion, walking all over the woods, running all over the woods up here too. So being outdoors, hiking, camping, and so forth was just a real passion from the beginning. My mother and father owned their land here in Addiston, a little over an acre, acre and a half maybe. And they would mention to me that they'd like to see it protected or preserved. The idea of it being developed and having houses on it was very unappealing, let's say, to them. So about then I saw an article in the paper, our local newspaper, about Western Wildlife Corridor, how that's what they were doing. They were protecting lands in the Ohio River Valley. So I told my mom one day, well, look, I could contact Western Wildlife Corridor and maybe we could then have our woods here around our house, donate that to Western Wildlife Corridor, and it would become a nature preserve and it wouldn't be developed. And she and Dad agreed, said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So I did. I contacted Jim Shank, who was the president then at Western Wildlife Corridor. This was around 2001. They didn't know it at the time, but when they acquired the property for Western Wildlife Corridor, I came along with the property. It just evolved. I mean, I saw a need to help out because organizations like Western Wildlife Corridor, which are all volunteer-based, always need help, and so I thought, well, shoot, I'd like to make this property look nicer. So I said, well, shoot, I'll start clearing out the invasive plants here, primarily honeysuckle and then garlic mustard, so that it's a really nice natural area. So I became more active and started the Land Stewardship Committee, which I just mentioned, to manage the preserves, to clear out the invasive plants, to build trails, to remove litter, debris. And we continue to this day doing all of those things to all of our preserves. We bought our first property in 2006, I believe, what we call our Whitetail Woods Preserve. We've added more and more properties. We have well over 300 acres now that we protect. We will be adding close to another 100 acres this year and early next year, up to in the neighborhood of 400 acres that we protect. We own hundreds of parcels, and I hope that we can continue that well into the future. I was president for quite a while, but I stepped down because I was getting overwhelmed with all my responsibilities, let's say. And so now I'm able to concentrate more on property protection, on property restoration, which is the thing I want to do until I'm no longer able to do it.
Yeah, and you can see that the numbers bounced around a little bit because they're always changing. But I think we have 383 acres. And then we are looking to still acquire the 11-acre Rapid Run was acquired this year. And then next year, the Muddy Creek Preserve, we got a Clean Ohio grant for that. So that'll be our first wetland preserve. And it's at the confluence of the Muddy Creek and Ohio River. So there's beaver and heron, and the last couple of weeks it's been flooded and filled with ducks and stuff.
Where exactly is that?
Sailor Park, so Lowland Road. It's between Sailor Park and Addiston.
Okay.
And we also have about 30 acres on Hillside Avenue. And I think, this year or the next year, we'll be able to open that Narrows Nature Preserve, although much smaller. Yeah, so we're constantly growing. And then I was hoping these would have animations. Okay, there we go. I wanted to talk a little bit about all the invasive species and the habitat restoration work that we do. So I thought we could play a little guessing game on the plants. This first one's a gimme. This one is a winter creeper. I'm sure a lot of people are nodding their heads. They're very familiar with this one. It grows up the trees, and it'll flower and get these red berries and spread. It's a really bad ground clubber that outcompetes our plants. How about this one? Does anybody recognize this one? Bradford pear, yeah, calorie pear. Good guess. Yeah, and this was an interesting, it was an ornamental tree, and they thought it was an invasive, and then it hybridized, and the interspecies mix. Yeah.
Excellent rootstock for fruiting pear.
Oh yeah.
The best you can get.
So it was a mixed rootstock, and then it created the perfect conditions. And then now, in early spring, like in about a month or two, that's all the white flowers. You'll see them all along the highway.
And it'll eat up the sidewalks.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful, got really well in the soil.
How about this one?
Yeah.
Garlic mustard. Oh yeah. And this one too, these plants, it makes me wonder if, if there's beneficial uses. Yeah.
It's edible.
It is, yeah.
You can use it as waste of, garlic or onion.
Yeah, we need to find somebody who can make a product with them.
It pulls out very easily as well. It's a biennial.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a biannual, and that's a good point. So if you pull it out before it goes to seed, then you have a chance. So yeah, and if other folks too, if you have information about these plants as we go through, please feel free to share. And they get harder. This one is kind of a newer one. We get it in our preserves because we're along the river. It's a Japanese chaff flower, and I mean, it was new to me, but then once it was pointed out, you just see it everywhere, particularly in wetland areas. It's probably along the Little Miami, I bet. I know our new preserve Muddy Creek is just chock full of it. And it's a biennial too. So you try to get the flowers. Everybody knows this one. So, and then this one is just, I mean, this is Delshire Woods. This is one of our preserves, and I mean, this is a lot. Yeah.
How do you?
Well, we don't manage it because we use a lot of pesticides, and we don't want to use the pesticides in the streams. So I'm not sure.
It does
You can
root
dig
very
it out.
deep, so it'll pull out.
You can dig it out.
Although you have to make sure you don't leave one root here behind.
The only good,
Yeah.
the only good thing I know about it is my chickens love it,
Oh, really?
but they're not strong enough to do, all they do is take the tops. I mean, they love it, but they don't get the corms, so,
So it grows back.
yeah.
Oh,
Japanese bluegrass.
there we go. Oh, Japanese stiltcrest. That was another new one to me. And this one, yeah, it will grow in acres, you know, these giant patches. And this one is one that we do spray. Here's some honorable mentions. English ivy, and how about this one? Anybody recognize? Oh, it's not big enough.
No, Japanese knotweed.
Japanese knotweed, and there's plenty others I could mention.
And there's all kind of cousins.
Oh yeah, the Japanese knotweed is particularly nauseous and hard to get rid of. You know, but there are like several hundred different invasive species in Ohio, just of plants. These are some of the few that we manage. We also manage for the Asian longhorn beetle. So we treat several ash trees in each preserve to try to keep those trees alive. Yeah.
When you do these invasive species, getting rid of things, you just hope something better springs up, or do you actually deliberately plant something to take root in that area?
That's a great question. We have not done very much planting at all. We have a prairie that we restored, but Bender in particular, Bender Mountain, one of our main nature preserves, nothing's been planted, and it's said it's one of the most ecologically diverse places in the county. There's over 435 plant species were surveyed in 2017. So hopefully there's more now. Yeah.
So just by eliminating the invasive species, these other species able to take foothold, is that what you're saying happened?
Oh, yeah, and it has to do with that migration and the extinction. So if we can suppress the invasive species and give the native plants a chance, then they're able to migrate into those areas. Yeah.
I've done, excuse me, tree planting, pull saplings, fence them in, but it's a lot of work. It just speeds up the natural replenishment by natives. You plant native trees, little trees, but if you don't water them during dry periods, the first 3 years especially are establishing roots.
Yeah.
If you don't fence them in, 4-foot high fencing, then rabbits and deer eat them right away.
One of the things is that whenever you dig out something, you're lifting the whole seed bank up. To sunlight and new seeds sprout. Hopefully you're lifting up native seeds in order to do that.
Yeah.
In place of the ones you don't want.
And we still get the invasive, like honeys, like areas that we cleared, the invasives will come back, you know, birds bring in seeds, and but there are still so much alive in the seed bank. And
So even in your own gardens, when you're weeding,
yeah,
to make sure that you're not digging out, you can use a stirrup bowl. And if you just, on some weeds, if you just take the top of it off, you prevent it from photosynthesizing, and it will kill it, rather than trying to dig out.
Yeah.
And try not to disturb the soil as much.
And this is honeysuckle. I guess everybody kind of knew that one. That's why I waited to the end. And I had some more slides about that. I think my slides might have gone out at work. But first, here's a little video about our preserves.
Hey, my name's Sarah. We are at Bender Mountain Nature Preserve, which is one of the preserves that we have for Western Wildlife Corridor. I am an educator who happens to be on the board, and today we're going to take a hike to look at the wildflowers. This is one of the only preserves in Cincinnati that you can see a whole bunch of different species. I think there's about 474 species documented in this area. Dr. Conover has come over here. He's a local botanist and was able to discover over 400 species of plants in the area. It is known as one of the most biodiverse areas in the tri-state, which is very exciting. So make sure you come out. It's great for families. It's great for just being alone. Personally, I like to come here after my job, which I already work outside of nature, but this is one of the places that is just so calming. I see so many species of birds, and insects, and just wildflowers that are around me. This is my first time I'm seeing blue-eyed Mary completely showing out, and I love it. So make sure you come out here with friends and family to enjoy our trails. We also want to promote more education, so we're installing a playscape at Kirby Nature Center. It's important to get kids out there at a young age, but it will be for older kids too, or kids at heart, so they can enjoy a lot of different aspects of nature in a safe space. It's amazing to come out into the forest because every week everything changes. So one week we'll have blooms of certain species. At Bender Mountain, it's a old growth deciduous forest, so we have lots of species that promote biodiversity, and the purpose of Western Wildlife Corridor is to protect it, but also to connect people to nature and make that connection as they're walking through. So hopefully when they come here, they're able to experience what Cincinnati really could be if we were to preserve more of our lands.
Yeah, so as Sarah said, we have 7 preserves, and we also have a nature center in Addiston, Kirby Nature Center. We do educational events. We had about 100 events last year between our educational and volunteer events. There's always something going on, and they're free, open to the public. And then our volunteer events, so we typically have 6 events a month, and during the most months, I think January we didn't have that many, and anything from trail building to maintenance, putting up signs, and then cutting honeysuckle, of course. Yeah, the honeysuckle, we were talking about disturbing the soil. I know some places use honeysuckle poppers. We use this method to cut the stumps and then use a sprayer or a dauber to treat them with Roundup. And then we also do a lot of the pulling of the garlic, mustard, or chaff flower. That can be pulled and bagged. So we, and those are fun things for all ages. So, and then as Tim said, we also have volunteer monitors that pick up litter, maintaining the trails. They take care of down trees or keeping areas safe. If somebody moves in, we have a lot of green space that's, or other disturbances that might happen. So, this was, and then the result of all that work is, that the wildflowers did grow back. And so this is Bluebell Hill in Bellshire Nature Preserve. It was one of the first preserves. And so, but this, this wasn't there, it wasn't planted, or, it was all honeysuckle, and when it was cut, these all came back. So, and there's Molly there, who's the monitor, who's really been passionate about keeping the honeysuckle back. Does anybody recognize this one? No, this is Blue-eyed Mary. Yeah, this was in the video. So this one can be found over at Bender, right along the trail too. So it's a really neat one. How about this one? Does anybody recognize Mayapple? And then so that there is Story Woods, which is in Delhi. And we have an easement on the back of it, and we manage the park for them. But again, that was all honeysuckle, and what came up there was Mayapples there waiting to come up. So those weren't planted. Let's see, how about this one? Larkspur. Oh, great. This one? Fox, yeah. And I don't know if I put blue fox. I don't know if these are actually, I might have gotten some wrong, so you might know better than me. How about this one? This is the one I studied in school. Like, Camus is the, yeah. But we call it hyacinth, and you can buy it. Yeah, but this is Whitetail Woods, and it's just a field of, and again, it was honeysuckle. And before long ago, it was vineyards. They grew wine there along the river. It was terraced. So. All right, yeah. People recognize that one. All right. Trout lily, yeah. There is a yellow and a white, yeah. Oh, this one just decided to go. Kind of gave. The red one is toad Cecil. Yeah. Now these I always get confused. These are actually two different ones.
Okay, so Dutchman's on this
Yeah.
side and
Somebody said it back there.
Dutch corn.
Yeah.
Squirrel corn.
Cool. And these are all found at our different preserves. This one's a really tricky one. I thought it was really pretty. Oh, Randy, you're good. All right, and then I had to put this one in because this is like the endangered clover that's over in Story Woods. But yeah, buffalo running. This is the running buffalo clover. So, and then this is the actual photo of the stuff that that we documented and sent to ODNR. And I wouldn't be able to tell that apart from another clover. But apparently it is a endangered species.
Does it also produce 4-leaf clovers?
That would be why it's endangered. Yeah, people keep picking up. Aside from wildflowers, we also have a bunch of mushroom flowers. Yeah, these were over at Story Woods. A lot of chicken of the woods. Yeah, Buckeye Trace has a lot of great flowers or fungus. Yeah, morels. Yeah, butterflies. Oh, and we do a mushroom program, so a fungi program, and then butterflies and moths. So we also do. We have a lot of great entomologists on the board. So we have several people that do butterfly programs. Dr. Gene Kriske, John Klein does a really great monarch one, and he IDs them, so he tags them, and you get to release them, and then cicadas. We do an annual cicada program, So, and then also over at Bender, last year, they found the blue ghost fireflies. I don't know if people have heard of these. But they make these kind of longer trails. So last year was our first blue ghost firefly hike, and of course it's at night, so you go out in the woods. And I'm really looking forward to them. And there's also, besides these fireflies, there's a whole world of fireflies, and they have different signals and communication. So it sounds like a really fun, interesting program, and that will be in June. And then birds. So we are doing a quarterly bird banding, and that's a great program. Adam McCoshin from the Parks does it, and he sets up nets. You get to hold the birds and tag them. And last time we did it, he caught probably 18 different birds. Wow. Yeah. So, and then it was great. And then the kids got to let them free.
Blue jay hanging out with a deaf woodpecker.
Yeah, isn't that cool with the red belly?
What's the lower left? I can't see it.
Yeah, the red bellies are really shy, so it's interesting that, but they're like in a guild or something, right? Herbs. So the cave salamanders, those are also endangered, the orange ones. And there's actually a really great population. I mean, we have some at Bender, but there's a better population across the valley on private land that we've been trying to acquire, but have not been able to.
Down from Storywood.
Yeah. You've heard of the Han pump house or spring house. So, but all sorts of herps and reps, animals, coyotes, bobcats. I don't have any photos of the bobcats. There's been rumors of mountain lions. I think they're just rumors. So. Oh, really? That'd be interesting. Yeah. I know we're really urban, so this kind of shows where the preserves are located. Bender Mountain is here. So like Jim said, if you go all the way out to the Great Miami, I feel like we don't have the whole corridor, but we have a good chunk in the middle that's preserved, and we're acquiring more. So I think pretty soon, we'll have a solid 5-6 mile stretch between Bender and Kirby that's all protected. And then we also own a lot of property on Hillside as well.
Try to function without fencing.
Mm-hmm.
You try to function without fencing.
Yeah, no fencing. Yeah.
Do you protect any of these species with conservation easements, or do you just buy them out?
We own.
Could you repeat the question for people?
Yeah.
How much of it is our conservation easements and how much do we own? So we own about 273 acres, and then there's another like 50 or 60 that people donated to the conservation value of the land to us. So they're not allowed to develop it or sell it to a developer, and we paid them for that, or they like donated it and then got that as like a tax benefit. Yeah.
Just wonder if you do any stream monitoring or anything like that, like you used to do.
No, we don't. And I think one of the challenges that we face is climate change, and I think you see that not just with an invasive species, but also with the extreme weather events and the scour that goes on. And most of our preserves are hillsides, and you can just see them washing away. So that really concerns me, and I wonder if there's more that we can do. I think just before I started, I was showing Sally a video of a sewer overflow in one of our preserves. So we do have that issue, and I hope that we can find more solutions. Yeah.
Do you do anything with, are you familiar with Doug Tallamy?
It sounds
Repeat the
familiar.
question for the Zoom people.
I'm asking if anybody is familiar with Doug Tallamy and Bringing Nature. Well, he's written many books, but my thought is, if you look at all the subdivisions, all the property that we each own, if we didn't plant one monoculture grass, we could connect all of this. We could help you. If we could educate people to the value of their land. And I mean, I almost cried coming home from work the other day because they put up, I come down Cleves, Warsaw, and they put up huge lot. They took those 3 beautiful pines, all of those trees,
Yeah.
they didn't take down, they chopped off one whole side of them. I mean, it's
Needs and need.
anyway.
Yeah, where they're doing the electric. Yeah, and they didn't replant. Yeah, and you lose a tree like that, or, you know, with the emerald ash borer, we lost like 1/10 of our forest, you know, to infestation. And then what's gonna come in and replace it?
Honeysuckle.
Honeysuckle or tree of heaven. Yeah, that was another one I should have thrown up there. So, and that's why it's really important, though, because I'm sure everybody here does, you know, a lot of maintenance on their land like that and plant for pollinators. Yeah.
To our neighbors.
Am I getting the hook? I think so. I only have 60 more slides.
Yeah, on your last slide, you have the green fuzzies connecting. Are they actually connected?
Some of them, yeah, and we don't. So I'm new, but it's interesting. So not all the preserves are open. So we actually have more like 16. Whitetail Woods is one of the biggest, and there's no trails. And we often, so we would buy a property and then kind of buy properties next to them and expand them. Rapid Run, our newest one, there's no trails there, but it backs up the Buckeye Trace, which has a 1.5 mile trail.
I'm more worried about the wildlife being able to migrate up and down rather than people.
Yeah, the wildlife can get through a lot easier than people, yeah. And so, you know, I think Tim from the videos approached probably every landowner in the corridor. And some people just won't sell to us. But they haven't developed their land. And they're kind of, as we build preserves around it, it makes it harder and harder for them to ever develop. So, and it puts pressure on them to sell. So. Good, yeah, good question. Join us for an event. During April, we have 2 wildflower hikes every weekend. So, and they fill up really quick. So they're capped at about 20 people. So if you're interested in seeing some wildflowers, visiting some of these undiscovered preserves, check out the website. So, and then members make it all possible. So it's all membership run, membership funded. We get some grants funding, but it's all about individuals who really care and are dedicated and go out, you know, a couple times a week and cut honeysuckle and volunteer. So
The web address is pretty straightforward.
Western Wildlife Corridor. Yeah. If you search mountains in Cincinnati, we pop up. Any questions? Yeah.
At the very beginning of your presentation, you were showing the Ioannus.
Yeah.
You showed one that climbed up on trees.
Yeah.
Now, I'm familiar when I was able to do service project, removing one where you pull it out of the ground Is that the same thing?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah,
I mean, I just kept pulling and pulling and pulling.
and it's like never ending.
I like, you know.
Matt, repeat her question, please.
Oh, is the euonymus that was growing up the tree the same that grows in the ground?
Is it a creeper?
Yeah,
What is a
and
creeper?
it grows along the ground, and then once it gets in the trees, it
Oh,
fruits.
It covers the tree over and it kills the tree. The
Yeah.
tree
Yeah.
falls down dead.
Yeah.
It eats the nutrients and it kills the tree. And it's very, very hard to get
But
rid
you
of.
can get it off the tree if you get it soon enough. And I don't bother to get it off the ground. It's too much work with constantly. But just keeping it off the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like a normal weed plant, it's a woody, so each year that stem on it gets thicker and thicker, like a tree would. Yeah, I know like at, Spring Grove Cemetery, they've gone and they've just cut it where it goes into the ground. And you could peel off these huge pieces, you know, all
Oh.
of dead vines, and they'll just leave them there and let them die, or as I put them once they're there, but they'll just cut them so that it can't get any nutrients out of the ground.
Yeah.
However, if there's one little piece of that
Oh,
left,
yeah, it's a whole network underneath.
you gotta go back. I don't know how often in Imago they go around, they go around a lot.
Well, they need to do more. Well, thank you, everybody, for for out of the preserve this spring. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Thanks
a lot. This is a beautiful presentation. And members and supporting you. Thank you so much.
That's a little one of the little salamanders like Matt was showing. These are some of the critters that live in the Little Miami River. So we started the program, the Saturday Stream Snapshot. It was started in 2003 by Ann Lyon, who is an eco-activist here in town. And it was run for about 19 years by Green Acres. And they changed focus to education, leaving the program without an owner. So Ann approached us at Isaac Walton Lee. We're in Loveland, right on the Little Miami River, and asked if we would take charge of the program. So we worked together to get a grant from the Ohio EPA. It's a grant from the Ohio Environmental Education Fund. So it's a citizen water quality monitoring program. I just said all that. It's now owned by the Cincinnati Isaac Walton League of America with funding from the OEEF. And we're in partnership with Hamilton and Claremont County and Cincinnati Metropolitan Sewer Districts. They're working as collaborators with us. We have 6 environmental groups that partnered with us on our application and 5 municipalities that we share the data with. These are the collaborators. The Metropolitan Sewer District of Greater Cincinnati actually gave us space in their lab at their Wulff Run Water Treatment Facility right on the Little Miami. And then these other partners have been helping us. We share data and they help us with supplies. So really there are 3 main parts to the Saturday Stream Snapshot program. The first is to identify nutrient pollution sources. The nutrients that help everybody's nice yards are really hurting the river, as you know. And so our job is to be the eyes and ears of the river and even the nose sometimes to find those problems. We do a monthly snapshot, the second Saturday of each month from March through November. So March 9th is our first sampling date since we're restarting the program. And we gather L2 chemistry data, and we follow level 2 data practices. So it's shareable as part of Ohio's Credible Data Program. The second big component is to educate about the impact of nutrients on the river and the reduction. That's for area residents to teach them things they can do. And then the third is to share that data with our collaborators, water management agencies, the communities themselves, so they can fix issues that are captured in the data. So today we're talking about, we're here to help find folks to help us run the snapshot itself. And then in the spring and summer, we'll be working on the education program. So I'm going the wrong way. Okay, why the Saturday Stream Snapshot? Did you know that the Little Miami River was the first national wild and scenic river in the country? And it's the only one in the country that's in a major urban area. There are 785,000 people who live in its watershed. Industry, 11 water treatment plants. This poor river has a lot going on. And the status as the wild and scenic river is threatened, and the river itself, by nutrient enrichment. Why the river is our home. We did a survey of people who live in the Loveland area and the area around, and a lot of people use the river, especially the trail that runs alongside the river. And what we found was, this question was, are you aware of steps that homeowners or residents living in the Little Miami River watershed can take to protect the river and its quality? And 56% said no, and I would like to know more. And when you add that up with the folks who said somewhat, and I would like to know more, that's 82%. So people care, they just don't know what to do. So our job is to fill that gap. Okay, what's the plan?
Yep. So real quick, so what is the plan looking forward here? This is just a map of the lower Little Miami River. Our testing and sampling is going to be both Claremont and Hamilton counties. So really from Loveland all the way down to the Ohio River. So all communities, we live in Anderson, so we're down the lower part. But you know, some of us here live up that farther. So we're only focusing on the lower Little Miami River. And just real quick, so there's lots of things you could test. We're focusing on 6 nutrients, nitrates and phosphates. We talked about these that from lawns and septic systems, E. coli, bacteria, pH and conductivity, and turbidity. So there are other things that you could test. We're focusing on this. It's the most cost-effective way and the most inclusive that we could come up with. And this is the same testing that's been started back in 2003. We're continuing that. And just real quick, Dr. Mike Miller and Ann Lyon, these are our mentors. They're the ones that actually started this program. Dr. Miller is a chemist by trade, a biologist, and he's the one that is the science behind the work we're doing. When we gather the samples, he actually qualifies it and pulls the data together. Ann's worked in this field her whole life, and she started this program. This program actually is not just the Little Miami River. I mean, ours is, but there's 3 other rivers that these folks have actually set up: Mills Creek, the Great Miami, and a couple others. I'm not sure the other 2.
It's been replicated. The program has been replicated.
We started it, and then the program's been replicated from there.
But not on the Kentucky side.
Well, I'm not aware of anything. No, and this group is not involved in that. Yep. Chris Hall, who is from MSD, he's actually our program coordinator. And just so you know, we're not pulling the samples in a backyard kitchen somewhere. We actually have a nice facility. MSD has donated the space right there in the water treatment plant. So we have a great space and storage and everything. All of our equipment's right in there. And so that's the highlight of our program. So what do we need? We actually need help. We need volunteers for, first of all, the sampling program that we're doing. As Allison mentioned, it's the second Saturday of every month, starting in March, going through November. The Wulff Run treatment plant, that's where our samples will be processed, but we will be actually collecting samples all along the river at certain sites and areas. If you live near there, right near you, you can collect them near you and then take them to the facility.
So you have a consistent number and placement of testing sites?
Yes, so we're gonna start with a certain number based on how many.
Repeat the question, please.
Oh, sure. So the question was, how many sampling sites are there? Isn't it gonna be consistent?
Well, yeah, that's the consistency of what I'm really looking for.
Yes, we're starting with 20, 25,
We're starting with 25
and,
and going up to 40.
and gonna go up to 40. So we will get as many volunteers as we can to enlarge that number as quickly as we can, but we're starting somewhere. So there's also training involved here and making sure that we collect this properly. We actually have a date and it's coming up fast. So March is a month away. Our stream sample training is February 27th at Ike's location, our facility, from 6:30 to 7:30. Teach you exactly what you should do, shouldn't do, and you'll get your kit and supplies right there for training. So there's also needs for lab analysts too, someone that works in the lab, processes the samples. If there's high school or college folks that that may want some experience in community service hours or just want to have chemistry training at level 2, this is actually free training for them. And then down the road, we'll talk this another time, perhaps, if you want us to come back, but we'll talk more about education and networking.
Let me talk.
You want to talk back?
Yeah, I want to talk.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. No, what we're looking for right now, March 9th is coming up fast. We're buying supplies for the lab. Kathy helped us clean the lab space. Thank you very much. We're ordering the monitoring equipment. A lot of the equipment we got from Rivers Unlimited that ran the program before, or Green Acres, is outdated and needs to be replaced. But we're looking for folks to help us meet or get in an introduction to STEM teachers for high school or college, for lab volunteers. It is a great way to get free training and learn how to use the equipment. Businesses maybe along the river, any connections with local media that we can reach out to. We just got our flyer hot off the press. We want to share that. Or if you know groups who might be interested in a presentation when we have the data, and we're going to be giving regular presentations about what we're finding, or help with our education program. We're going to post everything on a map, Kathy.
How far in the water do you have to get? A lot of people are kind of wondering, if you want to do the sampling, you have to have a life vest on, or how intense is it? Because we got to get the samples first.
It's stream side sampling. So you can stand, like the picture showed, you can stand on the edge and scoop the water up. If there is an area that is not easy to get to, we have some 6-foot long handled dippers that we can collect the water with. And then some of the sites are under a bridge. When we have buckets with rope, lower it down, scoop it up, drive it over to Polk Run, and then our analysts will measure it. So you don't have to get wet. But we do have boots for people who don't want to.
Yeah, how long have you been sampling there?
How long have we been sampling? The program started collecting data in 2003 for all those same spots. So we're prioritizing as we get started, we're prioritizing the 25 that had issues and focusing on those. And then we're going to be adding. And it's not just the main stem, it's the tributaries, because that allows us to track back. Is there a failing septic system up there that's causing problems, or find out what the issue is?
I used to be involved in the fixing method in shallows of the Little Miami, capturing the macroinvertebrates, the ones that are pollution resistant and the ones that are pollution vulnerable, and then looking at the ratio. Do you do any of that?
That is not part of this program, but we do at Ike's, we do have demos on how to look at the critters, and it tells you a lot about the safety of the water by measuring the macroinvertebrates in the water.
Okay. So this is downriver.
Right.
Right, so
Correct.
are you working with anyone like up in Warren County and then up into like Green County?
Our scope is limited to Hamilton and Claremont.
Are there organizations in those other counties to compare? I mean.
Yeah, there are groups that are
coming down.
measuring data, but we're focused on the lower part, because that's where most of the industry and most of the wastewater and population is. in the watershed. Thank you.
Yep.
So yeah, this is our email address, volunteer at Saturday Stream Snapshot. And we'll send more information. We're literally building the site now. We're building a volunteer list, so it's very busy time. Thank you so much, Kathy.
We will send out some information to everybody who signed up here. It will also be in the website of the Miami.org, the Sierra Club Miami group, and in our newsletter. So there will be, if you didn't jot this down, and there are many opportunities. It's not just this week.
No, it's 9
ongoing.
Saturdays, 40
And
spots.
this is something you can actually put your feet on the ground and say, I took some action, and this is it.
And
This
just
is
a
something
couple
you do
hours
right
at
away.
a time too. You know, you can sign up for one Saturday in July for 2 hours to go out and do it and take it to the lab, and that will help.
Yeah,
So-
and we're putting people together too, so if you can't commit to all the times, we can put you together with someone that can do the times you can't do that.
Got one quick.
Yeah,
As of now, there are no controls on lawn nutrients, right?
not that I know of. No controls on nutrients.
Is
Yeah.
this, that date, the trains are being offered is a bad one for me because I have a club closing down that night, but is there any
I
other
know.
time?
Yes, we're gonna, so two things. The question about the date, I was gonna mention that anyway, so thank you for that. So that date, the 27th, if you cannot make that, we're hoping you come, but we're gonna record it. And we may have future dates. So just know that if you miss that, you don't have to worry about, you can still be a volunteer in San Wulff.
Can I add another?
Yeah.
thing? We also, on Saturday mornings, we'll be doing training for stream samplers during the Saturday mornings at the very beginning, so you can come and learn. It's not, that in depth. And then the lab volunteer work is all on the job. We will teach you while you're there Saturday from 10 to 2. You'll learn how to run the equipment and how to capture the data right there, that day. That's all on the job, so to speak.
Yep. And for more information, Kathy said she's gonna send that information out. We have a website we're building, it's SaturdayStreamSnapshot.org. If you go there, it'll click to our news section for Isaac Walton Lake, and it has background information, more details that we did not present. If you wanted to read the background and why we're testing some of the things and the details of that. So know it's there, but you can, want to help, just email us at volunteer@SaturdayStreamSnapshot.org, and we'll appreciate that. Great, thank you much.
Thank you.